Mr. Shamus was the special education PE teacher at Wilson High School when I was in high school. I got into his special ed. Now, they didn't call it special education PE. When we were kids, they call it ortho PE. And it was for all the kids who were too ortho to be in regular PE. And so it wasn't not exactly kindly called that way. I got into it because I'd had a seizure the summer before 10th grade, and so they wouldn't let me in the pool with all the regular kids. So I was in ortho PE during the swimming season. And I had to go in there, and Mr. Shamus watched over me. But the year before that, his senior year, my brother Tim was in Mr. Shamus's class because he was asthmatic. And so while I was in Mr. Shamus's class, he was also the wrestling coach, I believed. One of the kids, a blind kid who had also been a wrestler, was hit by a car and killed on Coast Highway. The family called and asked if some of the students that had known him wouldn't come and be pallbearers. And so Tim and I were asked by Mr. Shamus to go down to that funeral and be pallbearers. I'd never been a pallbearer at a funeral before. I'd never been at a funeral that big before. I was 15. I didn't know the guy. And there were maybe 500 or 1,000 people at this funeral. He was very popular. He was a musician. He was tall. He was good looking. And the place was filled with the grief of this sudden loss. And here we were, these kids, carrying this casket through the midst of it all. Left an indelible mark on my mind, not just for the loss of the family, and not just for how wonderfully they greeted all of us as those who had gone to school with him, but about Coach Shamus, that Coach Shamus would have looked at us and would have said, "Will you do me a favor? And when you come out and stand with this young man and his family and carry his body to the grave." I've since been a pallbearer many times. I've since spoken the final words over many family members across the years. But in those moments of sharing the grief of that family, of sharing the grief of that huge community, that huge funeral, I thought, what was Mr. Shamus thinking, asking us? And I remember they put my brother Tim and another kid at the back of the casket as honorary pallbearers walking along, and we all had gloves on. And I felt so out of place. Afterwards, the family came up and thanked us, embraced us, as if we had been the best of friends. And I thought about those moments of grief where somehow we're all thrown together and a memory holds on to us. And needs, like that family's needs, are met because of someone like Mr. Shamus. I don't know what happened to Coach Shamus. I haven't seen him since Wilson High in 12th grade. But I think about all those people who are out there teaching still. The teachers right here at our local high school who were rooting for Kawhi Leonard when he was in the NBA championships just now and then made the MVP, most valuable player of the NBA championships. Went to our local high school here, where our son John graduated from. I thought about all the teachers that I talked to and the workers there that just were rooting him on and were excited about it. And how he must have carried so many words from each one of them that they had shared with him. We each one have someone who poured something into us at some point. And the reason they did, even when they didn't know it, was because something from deep within them cried out to them, believing that we could be the miracle. I want you to know today, you can be the miracle. And your spot's going to come where someone's going to need someone. Coach Shamus needed my brother Tim and I to be pallbearers. And it seemed so random in the moment. He called on us. We went on a Saturday morning. I've never forgotten it. And I've never forgotten him. Someone's going to ask you for help. And when they do, don't say no, say yes. Say yes, because in that moment, you're going to be a miracle for a family. In that moment, you're going to be the miracle for the rest of your life that you're going to carry with it. And someday you'll share the story. I don't tell this story much. Sometimes my brother Tim and I will talk about it. Other than that, I just don't tell the story much. because it seems kind of private. But now it gets to be a miracle that can encourage you to invite someone, be a part of that moment when you need them most. Don't be afraid. Invite them in and say, I need you to be the miracle in my life today. God bless you. Go be the miracle. Thanks so much for watching. Sorry this is posted so late today.